Hello, my name is Clark Carney, and I present to you the New History. Pardon if I do not look up very often. I am reading from a script, so I do not miss any of the words that I have written. I start with a simple summation. This, however, is not for mine. This comes from a pocket handbook of human evolution, which I think is extremely necessary in order to understand the new history. One needs to have at least a general background in the evolution of humanity, as well as the historical evolution of humanity. Critical to the new history is an examination of the nexus of language, the invention of language, which eventually led to the invention of writing. Grab a seat. This one's going to be very long. It was the increasing use of natural resources that pushed ancient primates towards the first human-like form. This not only led our prehistoric ancestors towards bipedalism, a more efficient way of moving, but it also triggered a self-reinforcing cycle. The more bipedal, the greater success in collecting ground resources, reinforcing bipedalism, etc. Culture caused the emergence of the human lineage by accelerating the evolution of certain Australopithecus toolmakers. Their enhanced stature and increased cerebral volume triggered the process of hominization, which gave rise to larger and more cooperative Homo social groups, maintained by linguistic grooming. Culture modified our biology, evolving to enable more culture. This phenomenon is evidenced by our physiology and anatomical structure, which requires the storage of fat for our large brain to function properly. Reproduction has been pushed beyond the limits of primate esoterics, because the time it takes for children to reach maturity increased. Child rearing began to require increased cooperation, becoming a collaborative social activity. Bipedalism liberated our hands, a biological evolution shaped feature also by cultural evolution as well, which made our hands into veritable tool machines with lost my place here. Spectacular abilities. Tool machines with spectacular abilities, thousands of sensory receptors, and a large brain to guide them. Bipedalism led to a reconfiguring of the entire body, allowing us to run, and running in turn made us lose our furry bodies. This unique and complex combination of features may have been present in Homo habilis, but was sure by the time of Homo ergaster, or Homo erectus, the human who stands upright. The first human form was Homo ergaster. That being said, the cooperation and coordination necessary for hunting in groups was achieved through hand signals and shouting, most likely, the oldest form of linguistic communication, which gradually led to articulate language. The important to understand for the new history is that nexus of language. The expansion of Homo began well before 2 million years ago. The result of many migratory movements and crossbreeding, the first Eurasians then mixed with sapiens when they too expanded out of Africa. It was thought that sapiens evolved from Homo heidelbergensis in East Africa, but this process happened throughout the entire continent. Sapiens then began a process of population growth which pushed them out of Africa. Fairly early Homo sapiens lived in band society, which profoundly impacted their psyche, giving them a strong sense of group belonging, a great talent for empathy, and a certain tendency towards altruism. More than 135 years ago, the first sapiens left East Africa to venture into the Arabian Peninsula and then into southern parts of Eurasia. They arrived in Australia 65,000 years ago and in China more than 100,000 years ago, and for a long time multiplied their numbers in these hot climates. starting around 600,000 years ago after mixing with non-sapien populations already present in Eurasia. They began moving farther north, entering Europe only around 43,000 years ago, and America 20,000 years later. Early settlements of hordes, essentially tribes or regional cultures, have existed since the Aurignacian culture of about 40,000 years ago in Europe. The Chauvet cave in France indicates that these people quickly developed a social structure. The domestication of the wolf points to the emergence of more complex societies, as does that of humans by humans. This phenomenon, self-domestication, is a fact that has been confirmed by our anatomy-enhanced technology, a semi-sedentary lifestyle, and the existence of social structure. War likely appeared very early on in social life as well, probably before the last ice age, though we cannot prove it. Endemic in some areas as long as 15,000 years ago, war disrupts economies by introducing the effects of interhuman predation. The first signs of crop selection are perceptible before the last glaciation, and all of the components of agrarian life existed thousands of years in advance of the transition to agriculture and the domestication of livestock. The war economy continued to grow after the arrival of the first farmers, and it would be the warriors who invented the state. And we will all see how relatively this is important to the new history. We are not subservient to a particular ecosystem, a tropical one. We have conquered all of Earth's biomes. We modify our planet's climate. We will conquer probably other regions as well as potentially intergalactic space. And our expansion is slow but explosive. We are the humans.